Sports HQ, where Philadelphia 76ers have ruled out Joel Embiid for Game 2 tonight against the New York Knicks due to ankle and hip injuries. That is according to Shams Charania. And man, this is a huge blow for the Sixers as they are coming out of a complete blowout loss to the Knicks in Game 1. Let's go ahead and take a look at these Game 2 games tonight. 7 p.m. Sixers trying to come back and even this series without their big man Joel Embiid. And of course, the Spurs taking on Minnesota at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. All right, well, who else to talk about this with than our girl Ashley Nicole Moss. And Ashley, obviously this is a huge blow for the 76ers. You think about the series that they had against Boston. Joel Embiid was such an important piece to those wins. But in Game 1, a team low of 14 points, 4 rebounds, only 1 assist. He was getting absolutely targeted in the pick and roll. Are you that worried about this as a Sixers fan? Just put the hat on the other head now.
No, absolutely. I think the biggest thing about this particular series versus the Boston series was that you were concerned about Joel Embiid's longevity. Could he face the physicality of this series? Would he be healthy enough to see the series completely through, regardless of how long it lasted, whether 5 games, 6 games, or 7 games? That was probably the biggest piece of the puzzle, the biggest question mark going into this matchup. Unlike the Boston series, where the physicality was really on the end of the 76ers, especially when Joel Embiid returned, because the 76ers had the defensive physical edge over the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics didn't have the same type of size that they had when they won the championship in 2024. A drastically different team. None of their bigs can compete with Joel Embiid, which is why the 76ers, outside of other things, came out on the winning end. When you look at the New York Knicks, though, that's a drastically different story. You have Mitchell Robinson, you have OG Anunoby, you have Karl Anthony Towns, you have guys who can throw their body at Joel Embiid and make it a lot harder for him to do what he does so well. The physicality of the series is drastically different. So that was always a concern, was could his body withstand the physicality so quickly removed from his surgery and the other ailments that have kind of plagued him throughout his career.
We got to think of that Game 7 too. I mean, his knee took a beating in that one. Obviously, reports are suggesting fatigue could be a factor here.
I'm sure it is.
You got to think if you are the Sixers, you're like, all right, we got blown out in Game 1. We've got Game 2 in New York. It's tough. We'd rather rest our star, get him back into Philly, and then see if we can even that series out then. But the question becomes, who are they going to rely on at center now without their big guy?
I mean, you're going to have to play a little, you're going to have to get a little bit creative, right? You do have Paul George available. He's a big guy. You may not have the true dominant force in Joel Embiid where, look, when Joel Embiid's on the floor, it makes their opponents have to work a lot harder. When he is playing, whether 80%, 90%, 100%, he's a very tough player to guard. He's a very tough player to stop. You're now going to have to figure out how to impose that same dominance without that dominant force. So, like I said, Paul George would be an interesting factor. You have Andre Drummond, who, is a big guy, is a physical guy, but no one can really replace Joel Embiid. So what you're going to have to do is what we've seen the 76ers do last season, or last series, excuse me, and that is figure out a way to get everybody else involved. Tyrese Maxey's going to have a big game to step up in place of the absence of what Joel Embiid brings offensively. We've seen the 76ers do this before. It's not a death sentence, but I will say that Joel Embiid not being able to play definitely changes the landscape of this particular game. It's a physical force. It's a dominating force that now the New York Knicks don't have to account for.
Well, but sometimes the devil that you do know, right, is better than the devil that you don't know. They did such a good job of bottling him up in Game 1. Now things shift around a little bit. From the New York perspective, what do you think they're going to bring tonight?
I think New York is absolutely going to impose their dominance, impose their size. Knowing Joel Embiid is no longer on the floor and you don't have to worry about him, you're now going to figure out a way to attack the other players on the floor with your dominance, with your size, because you know they can't meet you where you're at. Obviously, again, you have Paul George, you have Andre Drummond, but Joel Embiid, we say it time and time again, is you can't stop him, you just hope to contain him. And now that's one less problem for the New York Knicks to have to worry about. The Knicks have size, they play defense, and when they play defense well for all 4 quarters, they're extremely physical, it's extremely suffocating. Now they have to only worry about how to attack the players that they probably have had, not probably, that they have had easier times attacking in the past than having to worry about the whirlwind force that is Joel Embiid.
Well, we've seen some line movement. The market obviously responding to this. A lot of respect for Joel Embiid. It went from 7.5. The Knicks were favored there to 10.5. So 3 full points here. We did see a blowout in game 1. Do you think we see another blowout tonight?
You know what? I'm not going to underestimate the opponent. I'm not going to say that Nick Nurse is not a great adjuster. Like I said, you don't win a championship by not being able to adjust. I think that this changes the game, though. I think now the physical aspect of this game, whereas before it was slightly more even because Joel Embiid on the floor changes things drastically from a physical standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, I do think now the defensive edge lies solely in the New York Knicks. So offensively, the 76ers are going to have to do what they normally do and then some to account for that. So because of that, whereas the offensive end of the New York Knicks is also there, you put that in combination with the defense they can bring that I think the 76ers are going to struggle with. I think that it's not going to be a blowout, but I do think the New York Knicks come out on the winning end of this unless they completely just play a different brand of basketball than we saw in game 1.
Well, what he doesn't have in health, he certainly makes up for in passion. He has been very passionate about trying to keep Knicks fans out of their arena. But if the Knicks go up 2-0 in this series, I think you're going to have a hard time getting Ashley's people out of that building. Big thanks to our girl Ash. Here's one more look at the playoff slate for tonight. And as you see, some line movement there. Knicks now laying 10.5 with that news about Joel Embiid. They, of course, lead the series 1-0 so far, looking to go up 2 games in the Timberwolves and the Spurs. Spurs laying 9.5 despite being down.
Point game 1 win, got to point that out. Then it's T-Wolves and Spurs in the nightcap. Minnesota with a surprise return of Ant-Man and a surprise victory in game 1. But for the other 22 teams in Cancun right now, it's all about what's next. Our Sam Quinn on CBSSports.com writes, Jaylen Brown for Giannis? This trade? Why not? Maybe Katie Mox, Ashley Nicole Moss, they have something to say about this. Ladies, it looks good on the graphic. You got the green going, but there's some implications if this happens.
Yeah. Well, first of all, good to see you, sister. That was amazing. Now we're with Ashley Nicole Moss. You're wearing the green, actually.
That was not on purpose. I tried not to wear black today, as I normally do.
Well, okay.
So.
Well, it's not a funeral because your Knicks are up in this one.
Point.
I have dressed for, I don't know what I've dressed for. Let's start with the 5 NBA superstars that could be on the move this season. Let's start with the most obvious one that we just talked about. The Greek freak in Giannis, what a turbulent year he has had in Milwaukee. His unhappiness has been well documented. Do you like the Celtics?
I like the Celtics. We spoke about this yesterday. I said on paper it makes sense. Now, sometimes things on paper don't always make sense in real life. They don't always translate to the game. But I have a better destination for Giannis. It's a lot warmer than Boston.
Which he wants. He
wants. He did also say he wants to be on the East Coast because it's an easier flight or easier travel just in general to Greece, where he is from. And because of that, 305, Miami, you should enjoy this. I think Giannis to the Miami Heat makes the most sense. Now, this was a conversation that we feel like we've been having over and over and over again. It was a conversation we were having close to the trade deadline. It did not happen, but to Miami's credit, it was probably best that it did not happen at the trade deadline because they would have had to put together a rush package much less exciting than a package that they could have created in the offseason. So this is what a potential trade could look like. It's going to require a bunch of pieces, but pieces that the Miami Heat, I feel like, would be okay moving, including Tyler Hero, who reportedly is unhappy in Miami and could be on the move. That's what some of the reports have said since the Miami Heat were eliminated from the playoffs. And Tyler Hero has been a conversation piece, a trade piece in potentially getting Giannis, I feel like, for years. And he's from Milwaukee.
I was going to say, go home.
He's going home. Granted, Miami, Milwaukee, 2 different places. But I do like the defensive aspect of having Bam and Giannis play together. Now, offensively, I would be a little bit cautious of what that would look like, but luckily for Miami, if they're able to retain guys like Norman Powell and some of the other guys they have on their roster, they do have a cast of shooters. But I do think that defensively, it would just be a really nice fit. It would be a really interesting fit. Heat culture has really been just rooted in the fact of playing hard, playing tough, and that's what Giannis brings. But it's going to be a hefty package. We're talking about Giannis. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer, multiple players, and some draft picks.
Well, if Giannis does go to the Heat, then maybe the fans will show up on time for those games.
Doubt it.
Notoriously late. I love that move for him. But Ash, another superstar that's creating some buzz this offseason, Kawhi Leonard. I've seen some reports that are linking him to Houston. I got to say, I like who you linked him to.
I'm sure you do like who I linked him to.
But the Clippers have said they want to win with him. So what will it take to get him to move?
I think, though, that may have been the case prior to the movement of James Harden and Darius Garland. It is very clear that the Los Angeles Clippers are trying to go younger, which is why one of the reasons why James Harden ultimately was moved to Cleveland. And if they're trying to go younger, although I think Kawhi is a great locker room piece, and what we saw in this postseason and the regular season is that he can still compete on both sides of the game. He is still an absolute dog. I think that the Golden State Warriors make the most sense, and here's why.
Woo, woo.
I know you like this. The Golden State Warriors make the most sense for me because, look, Jimmy Butler, Pods, you're going